You've been in the markets for years. Do you ever remember a situation like we've got right now?
That's a great question. The answer is a resounding no, and it's why I continue to accumulate gold and silver now. Think about it. You have the stock market at all-time highs. You have the US dollar, even though it's been weak recently, you have that at a 14-year high. Inflation is at an all-time low. Bond yields are at a 35-year low. The bond bubble itself could be something that could really, really change things.
Yeah,
You
it's
have
pretty
real
scary.
estate values that are now back up. They actually exceed in the U.S. the prices at the 2006 bubble. You have nominal debt levels that have never been higher. And one could argue we have geopolitical conflicts that are greater than we've seen in decades. With a leader that, like him or hate him, does pose some risk. So you add all these things together, and we have a lot of risks in the system right now, in the financial system, the economic system, the monetary system, fiscally. I mean, there really isn't a better scenario that you could draw up for the need to own gold and silver right now. So this is a situation that eventually has to resolve somehow. These things have to be resolved. Any resolution, any ramification of all these things blowing up at the same time could easily send gold and silver a lot higher. The risks are elevated, the risks are high, and the need to own gold and silver just really hasn't been greater in my lifetime than right now.
Can you tell me about the potential for a silver moonshot, regarding everything you just said, with all of the markets in turmoil and a bond bubble that is scary as can be? This is the first everything except commodities bubble.
Well, what's interesting is that, gold is whatever percent above its 1980 high, whereas silver is still dramatically below its 1980 high. I mean, what can you identify out there that is actually selling more cheaply and below its 1980 high? I mean, maybe computer chips? I mean, there isn't anything out there that is priced so low right now. And the gold silver ratio is back up to around 74, 75 as you and I talk. So it clearly favors silver right now. But you're right. It's the crisis. It's these things blowing up or just completely devolving into some type of series of crises, which is what I think is going to happen. It's not going to be one crisis. It's going to be a series of crises. And when most of the population, retail population can't afford gold, what are they going to turn to? Well, they're going to turn to silver. So you're going to have a lot more people wanting to buy silver than you are wanting to buy gold. And meanwhile, you have industrial uses for silver that are continuing to grow literally every day. The Silver Institute just put out another report today that showed all the new uses for silver. So there's just a lot of impetus, a lot of catalysts behind silver, especially at its current price, that could really give it the moonshot, like you say.
The all the uses for silver and stuff. One of the things that that brings to mind is that if there is a crisis, right now there's still a real estate bubble, a housing bubble in China. There's a whole lot, the world, the global economy. We are still selling cars, automobiles. China uses a lot of copper. Cars use lead and zinc, and where does the most of the silver that comes to market each year, where does that come from? A large portion of the silver.
Well, the biggest portion actually doesn't come from silver mines. It comes as a byproduct of copper and lead and zinc mines. So as those things get impacted, as those industries get impacted, that could impact the availability of silver supply as well. And that's another issue I didn't even talk about. There's so many catalysts for silver, but another one is supply. And a lot of people look at the supply and say, hey, there was almost 1 billion ounces of new supply in silver last year. Well, that's true, but we're using it all up, A, and B, because of low prices, a lot of silver mines, pure silver mines, uh, have been compromised, and they're not producing as much as they have been in the past. Low prices have forced them to cut back on exploration and development, and reserves have fallen. Costs are still high. So a lot of that is going to be impacted, and it's going to have an influence on the availability of new supply. So it's not like all the silver in the world is going to go away. A lot of it does get used up, but whatever's there is not going to really be available. And we do need to rely on new supply in order for you and I to continue to buy, silver eagles and silver maple leafs. So that's going to be impacted, and that's going to be another catalyst for the silver price, I believe.
Yeah, so if they stop selling as many homes or as many cars, about half of the silver supply comes as a byproduct from copper, lead, and zinc?
No, it's about 2/3 actually.
2/3. Okay.
Yeah. So if that slows down and silver's just a byproduct, well, they're not going to keep the mine open just to produce the silver. They're going to shut the mine down or curtail it, perhaps. They won't develop as many things during a recession or a depression. That's going to have an obvious impact on the availability of silver. So that's another catalyst.
So just when there's monetary demand, just when the public wants to come in and buy it, almost half the supply could vanish.
It'll certainly be reduced. There's little doubt about that. I mean, every analyst report I read out there, including the research that I've done at Gold Silver, says that supply is going to fall. It's just a matter of how much and when that really kicks in. It's definitely going to fall. So you're right. There could be a perfect storm coming up here for silver.
So you've talked about geopolitical risk. You've talked about all of the bubbles in the economy, and I keep on saying that there's got to be a recession right around the corner, because there always is one, and when that comes, that's going to be one of the triggers for all of this. You've talked about how silver is set up for a moonshot. So how do you plan to navigate what you see coming in the global economy? How do you navigate the future?
I love that question. And a lot of people ask that question. I basically do three things. One is I first of all own lots of physical gold and silver relative to my assets, relative to my income. So I believe in saving in gold and silver and not an ETF. I own physical metals. So I practice what I preach. I own lots of gold and silver. I buy, if not every month, very regularly. I bought again just yesterday, ironically. So the first thing I do is I want to own lots of physical gold and silver. That is my primary form of savings. I do keep some cash, but I want to own lots of metal. The second thing I do is I try to keep my debt real low, either pay off debt. I carry no credit card debt. The only debt I have is a house payment, so I try to keep my debt low, because in a crisis situation, the debt on my home may actually be a positive thing, which is a whole other topic, but I don't want other debt, and so I do keep my debt low. And then the third thing I do, which we haven't talked a lot about, is I do diversify internationally. I do believe in having some of my assets outside of my country of origin, which in my case is the U.S. So I do believe in having some political diversification, if you will. And the easiest way to do that is to put some physical gold and silver in a vault that's outside of my country. And so that's what I do. And I do believe in having that. I think it's an important thing for anyone that has, any positive net worth or a lot of assets to seriously consider.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you for your time. That sort of wraps this up. So Jeff is Senior Precious Metals Analyst at goldsilver.com and somebody that I work with on a regular basis. Thank you very much, Jeff. We'll see you next time.
Great to be here, Mike. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.